So it's not if I'm allergic to water, period. Hi my angels, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be running through and answering some of my most frequently asked questions over on TikTok. Where I've been using TikTok so much more recently, I found that I've had such a serious amount of questions over there, and I just feel like I'm really struggling to feel like I'm answering everyone's questions. On some days questions just flood in, sometimes there'll be multiple of the same question, and instead of actually dealing with the comments and responding to them, I tend to just shy away and avoid them, which is honestly one of my worst habits, maybe ever. So before we get into it, if you don't already, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. I have just recently filmed a travel series on my trip to Germany and the journey that I'm going through at the moment with getting private medical treatment abroad for my condition aquagenic pruritus. So if you haven't checked those out already, then I do really highly recommend watching those. They're a really good watch. I think they could be quite interesting if you want to learn more about what I'm going through, and also it just helps me to educate people a little bit more on my situation and what my life is like with this condition. So like I say, if you haven't already, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel, getting your post notifications turned on so that you never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, if you don't already, then make sure that you are following me on all of my social media channels. That'll include Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. And if you're ready, we'll just jump straight into the questions. So a question that I've been asked quite a lot on TikTok is what I did or what my parents did to deal with this when I was a baby and leading on into childhood. So someone's asked, what did you do as a child in school with this issue? And someone else has asked, what about when you were younger or a baby? Did it affect you then? So to answer those questions, I only started getting really serious, regular symptoms of this when I was about 16 or 17 years old. Up until then, the pain would only happen every so often after coming into contact with water, so it took me such a long time to be able to link the fact that the pain was happening every time I came into contact with water, because it wasn't every single time until I got a little bit older, if that makes sense. So when I was a baby, my mum said that she never exactly noticed that I was suffering from water contact itself, but I did have really extreme baby eczema. So I've always had really sensitive skin, and I suffered quite a lot from my eczema when I was younger. So I could have been having minor symptoms of this as a baby, but it maybe was a little bit harder to pick up on because one, I was a baby and I couldn't tell my mum if I was in pain, and two, I was diagnosed with eczema, so it made sense for them to assume that it was just eczema that was bothering me. So the earliest allergic reaction that I can actually remember would have been when I was about 5 or 6. I remember I'd had a bath and I'd come downstairs because I was itching so much and I was crying and I was telling my mum that my skin was in so much pain and that I didn't know what to do. I remember I was laying down and rolling on the kitchen floor because it felt cold against my skin. But that is the earliest memory I have of having an allergic reaction and having that feeling of, oh my god, what is this pain? At the time, my mum's best friend was a nurse, so I remember her calling her friend, just being like, look, Niah's just had a shower, she's rolling around on the floor, crying and screaming in pain. What should I do? And her friend was just as baffled as we were. And then after a while, I remember it died down and it eased. And then say the next few times that I would get in the shower, it wouldn't always happen. So it took me a little while to be able to link the fact that the itching was being caused by the water contact, until a little bit later on in my life when the intense itching and burning was happening after every single time I came into contact with water. And that's when they realised that the water was seeming like the most likely trigger, after we had ruled out things like soaps and like fragrance products that I could have been using or anything that could have been upsetting my skin. They kind of eliminated that and made sure that I cut all of those sorts of things out of my routine first, until I was literally just showering and bathing with water and still having the allergic reactions. And then they were able to work out it was only the water left to be causing the allergic reaction. Someone else has asked, what if something really bad happened and you just have to cry? I get asked this a lot because the fact that my tears make me have allergic reactions on my face or anywhere on my skin that my tears have contact with, that can sometimes really, really shock people. I think that can sometimes be one of the things that really makes my illness hit home for people, when they realise that you can't do something as necessary as crying sometimes and letting off steam. You know, the fact that I can't do that without having the worry of an allergic reaction as well. I think that does sometimes really make people think, shit. And I'm not going to lie, when I first started having the allergic reactions on my face, because in the early days of having these allergic reactions, I wasn't actually affected on my face. So I used to never really have any problems on my face after water contact. But I'd say for the past 4 or 5 years now, it has affected my face. I'd say I definitely only had about 1 or 2 years where my face was unaffected. And the honest truth to this question is simply that if I need to cry, I cry. The bottling up of emotions causes me far more pain in the long run than any amount of itching or burning on my face can, from actually just allowing myself to feel my emotions as they come. In the first few years of when I got diagnosed with this condition, I worked really hard to suppress my feelings and to suppress my emotions because of the fact that I was actually scared of letting myself cry and letting myself have the pain on my skin, as well as any emotional pain that was leading me to cry. But it really didn't take me long to realise that suppressing my emotions like that actually caused me far more damage than it did good for me. At the end of the day, I feel like my allergic reactions are extremely unfortunate and they are so painful, but they don't kill me. Whether I have the skin condition that I have or not, and whether I have allergic reactions from crying or not, I still very much deserve to express my emotions and to feel and work through any pain that I have. And the natural way to do that is by crying. And I feel like to rob myself of that or to suppress myself from doing that, I'd be doing myself a disservice. Have you ever had a day where things have just built up and built up and built up, and you get home, you cry, you do that little dramatic stare in the mirror at yourself, and after you've let it all out, you just feel so much better? And it goes back to what I said in a video of mine recently, is who decides what is worth an allergic reaction? It doesn't make sense that automatically people feel that me having a bath or having a wash every day in order to not walk around smelling like shit is worth an allergic reaction. But doing things that are good for my mental health and for my mental well-being, like makeup artistry or allowing myself to cry, who decides what is more worthy of the allergic reaction pain? I've just seen as well, I've got quite a few questions of people asking what happens when I cry. It is exactly the same as if I were to get in the bath. It just burns and itches all over my face or wherever the tears have fallen, and it really doesn't matter how quickly I wipe away the tears. Once the tears have been on my skin or rolled down my face, it's gonna itch in that area. So it is usually fairly limited to certain areas because of where your tears naturally fall. So for example, your tears would fall sort of down this area and sometimes from the outer corner as well. So it's usually in sort of like a triangle here that it affects me, but it does sometimes roll down here as well. So I have definitely experienced itching around here and down my neck when it's rolled down my neck. And I also get really sore around my eyelids and around where the eyelashes are. But it doesn't last very long. It certainly doesn't last as long as an allergic reaction from having a bath would. When I cry, I usually am only affected or usually only in pain for about 30 to 40 minutes afterwards. So in comparison to the hours that I spend in pain after having a bath, that really isn't that serious. How do you remove your makeup if you're allergic to water? I hate this question when it's worded like this as well.
How do you remove your makeup
if
you have an allergy to water?
It comes across as very doubtful of what I'm going through. When I have a diagnosis of aquagenic pruritus, I am allergic to water. I have allergic reactions to contact with water. I have that condition. And it's so hard when people still approach the situation as though there's doubt there, because until I'm diagnosed with something else or something which proves why I'm having these allergic reactions, my diagnosis is aquagenic pruritus. So it's not if I'm allergic to water, period. Also, I do have multiple videos on how I remove my makeup. I've made so much content both on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube showing you guys how I remove my makeup and talking you through everything that I have to think about whilst doing that from start to finish. So I'll make sure that those videos are linked in the description box and are on the screen for you now, but I'm not really going to answer that question in this video because I feel like the answers are there, and if I keep on re-answering these questions, it kind of defeats the purpose of me having made those videos, because I made those videos to help people to understand that exact thing. So if you do want to know how I remove my makeup with acrogenic pruritus, then please do head over and watch those videos, and I'm sure that will clear it up for you. Someone asked me what happens when I'm at the beach. So basically, I love the beach. I have always, since I was a child, like, I grew up in a seaside town, so the beach to me reminds me of being a child and being carefree and problem free, and I associate the seaside with peace. So when I started to suffer from this skin condition, I felt that it really hit me that bit harder because I've always had such a connection emotionally with the seaside because I grew up on the seaside. So whenever I've been to a beach since having acrogenic pruritus, I have always found it quite difficult because I've always had to fight the urge inside of me, or fight my inner child, to just run towards the sea and enjoy it, as most people do when they're at the seaside. Now I have to be very thoughtful about where I'm placed. I have to make sure that I'm not within any type of splashing distance of other people. So I always find that I'm much further up the beach than I used to be. I'm always as far away as I can be from the sea. I always have to make sure that I'm really well sheltered now as well. You know, if it starts to rain at beaches, there isn't any shelter, so I have to make sure that I have my own shelter from both the rain and the sun because of my allergic reactions to sweat. I also have to make sure that I'm fairly covered up, or I have something nearby that can cover my skin up. I've had situations before when my friends have come away from the sea and they've come near me, and even just from them being wet and dripping from being in the sea, I have to make sure that I have something that is able to cover me and protect me from that. That includes things like drinks. I have to make sure that any open topped drinks are as far away from me as possible to make sure that if they're knocked over, they don't go over me. There's so much to think about. So yeah, I've been to a beach maybe twice since having this condition because I just find it really stressful, and I find that sometimes I end up focusing more on how different the experience is now that I have this condition, and it can sometimes take away from the enjoyment of the actual situation because the beach just isn't how I remember it, because when I was a child I was able to enjoy it because I wasn't so severely allergic to water. Again, there's loads and loads and loads of questions of people asking me how I shower or how I take a bath, and again, I've made so many videos on these, so I will of course link them down below. A lot of people have come on here as well and suggested that I take Betaalanine to help with my skin condition. Not only have I talked about this on YouTube before, but I have also made TikToks about this as well. But I tried Betaalanine about 2-3 years ago now. It was quite a while ago, but I was on it for over 6 months in varying doses, including the dose that has been suggested to me here, and it did nothing for me at all. It only made my symptoms worse because I got the constant tingling that Betaalanine is meant to give you. So it basically gives you kind of like a tingly, pins and needly type feeling after you take it, which obviously if that replaces the burning and the itching of the allergic reaction, that's amazing. You know, I'd much rather a pins and needle type prickle than an intense burning and uncontrollable itch. Like, in comparison, the pins and needles would definitely be better, but I got both. So not only did I get the pins and needles type tingling all over my body after taking the Betaalanine, I got that in addition to the uncontrollable itching and the burning, and that was every single time, no matter what dosage I took. So I think after a period of about 6 months, my specialist in London actually advised me to just stop taking that because I was causing myself more distress than I actually needed to be in. But yeah, I did try it. I'm so glad that it works for so many people. Honestly, the fact that anyone else suffering with this type of pain, I understand you, and I'm so truly happy for you that you found something that makes life more bearable for you. I'm just so sad and a little bit jealous. But any of you guys who have gelled well with Betaalanine, I hope you're loving life, and I hope your quality of life is so much better now. Quite a few other people have asked me how much more money I'm going to need to raise before I can get full treatment. I have a video dedicated to answering this question, which is one of my more recent videos, so I'll make sure that I link that and put that on the screen for you now so that you can head over and watch that, because I'm sure that that will answer your questions a lot better than I can in this video. But the short answer is, I don't know. Moving from the NHS over into private medical care is probably one of the scariest things that I've ever had to do, simply for the fact that the financial responsibility is so huge. You know, I personally do not have the finances to say that I'll be able to be on private medical care for the foreseeable future. So that's the reason why my target is now so high, is because they have told me to prepare for the costs to be open-ended, because they have no idea how long this journey may go on for. They have no idea what they may find after working with me for a while, and they have no idea yet what route of treatment they're going to be taking based on what they find when they run the tests that they want to run on me. They've warned me that this is going to be a seriously expensive journey. And as I said in my video when I explained why the target's gone up so much, I just don't feel that I ever would have forgiven myself if I hadn't tried to see this through and tried to raise this money to enable me to see this through, because Lord knows I can't do it by myself. But I've seen so much support and so much love from you guys, and I've had so much encouragement to try to just raise as much money as I can to help me see this medical journey through as far as I possibly can. My situation is very unique in the sense that not only is my condition very rare and very under-researched, I'm moving from the NHS to private medical care, which in itself is an expensive thing to do. But obviously on top of that, I have the added factor that my clinic happens to be abroad, so I have to factor in travel costs. I have to factor in the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic right now. You know, there's so many additional things that have worked against me to make this more of a challenge financially. But I've been shown such a serious amount of understanding. There are people out there who want to see me live a life that doesn't just consist of pain. And I feel like if I don't go after that possibility of me having a life that is less painful, then I have absolutely no chance of getting it. So the answer to your question is, I don't know. I really wish I did, but I don't. But I'm learning that it's okay to be uncertain, because life is very uncertain. I can't expect myself to know the answers to everything. I'm allowed to feel lost in this situation because I am lost, and I'm just trying to trust the doctors whose hands I'm in now to lead me out of this maze that I've found myself stuck in.